2 doors on the left on one side of the house.
I suspect that the incredibly severe weather that blew out the doors has passed by.
Oh, lady is right. Come to our boy. Okay, Dad, be easy on that. What's wrong with the wife?
Hi, I'm Governor Rick Scott. As elected officials, we each have a critical responsibility to ensure the safety of our citizens, as well as the visitors who come to our state. As leaders, you're each a vital part of our state's emergency response. When disaster strikes, it is of the utmost importance that each of us understands the unique roles we have as elected officials. To that end, this presentation provides valuable insights. You'll learn what to do in an emergency, and perhaps just as important, you'll learn what not to do. Thank you for taking the time to learn what you can do to be prepared, and thank you for your service to your community and our state.
As an elected official, there is, perhaps, no more important role you can play than managing your community's expectations. Achieving that while ensuring a smooth recovery requires accurate, consistent, and clear messaging. Every public servant needs to be delivering the same message. Making sure this occurs means preparation, planning in advance, meeting and working with your local and state emergency management teams. Fortunately, Florida has one of the nation's most effective and efficient emergency management teams, so you have a wealth of resources to draw upon.
All disasters start locally, but larger disasters can challenge even our most well-prepared communities. In those situations, they may rely upon assistance from neighboring municipalities or counties, or even state or federal assets. The State Emergency Response Team at the State Emergency Operations Center can help provide the coordination for that mutual aid response, allowing local emergency managers to focus on spearheading the effort in their community. It's important to know that the state EOC is ready 24/7 to support county and local government during a disaster.
Meeting with and learning about the various emergency management teams in your area should be high on your list of priorities. Not only can they brief you on the hazards your community is likely to encounter, they'll also help you understand how and why disaster areas are declared, and how affected communities are reimbursed for damages. They can even help with special training, so you'll have a background in emergency preparedness before you might need it. When disasters strike, they're always local, and that's where the response must begin. You need to be talking with your local emergency management team, and most importantly, your county emergency management director. They're the best and most immediate source of information. They are the first line of coordination with you and other state officials. Reinforce and practice the idea of unified command. One plan, one team with all public messages coordinated. There is nothing more critical than effective, open communications when disaster strikes. If the emergency or disaster begins overwhelming the community, the county can request the State Emergency Response Team, CERT, respond with its capabilities. CERT will then activate to support your operations and provide the National Guard, state law enforcement, search and rescue teams, health and medical teams, food and water, and other life-sustaining items and equipment. Do not assume an emergency or disaster automatically means that help from the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, is on the way.
It's critical for elected officials to understand that reimbursement from the federal government is only available during the largest disasters. Only when a defined threshold has been met is that funding available. For example, if there's a flood or a series of floods over an extended period of time, and they don't reach a certain elevation, it may not meet the criteria for reimbursement by the federal government. It is important for local government to understand and realize that when they call for help, they may be responsible for all that help, unless they understand differently ahead of time. The state will work with the federal government to make certain the state meets the criteria available so that the federal financial aid comes in. Typically, in a disaster, that's 75% federal, so anything that the locals order, they may have to pay at least a portion of it, and if it was not declared, they may end up paying all of it. so use caution when requesting mutual aid, but certainly get the resources necessary to save lives and property.
Remember, only the governor can ask the president for federal assistance. And unless the president grants a major disaster declaration for your county, the county may very well be responsible for the costs of food, water, and other local aid. This is regardless of the fact that an executive order may have been issued. In the immediate aftermath of an emergency or disaster, safety, security, and basic human needs are the prime directives. Teams will assess the damage for a possible federal disaster declaration if the damage dictates this is needed. Only then will the recovery phase get underway. If your community has been declared by the president, here are some of the things that might be expected from the government. They range from temporary housing and food stamps to debris removal, emergency protective measures, and direct financial assistance to individuals and families. Whenever local or state emergencies do not reach presidential thresholds, the State Emergency Response Team will work with you to identify available assistance, possibly from other states, specific federal agencies, and private nonprofit organizations. In many cases, loans through the Small Business Administration may be available. The governor will request this type of assistance if certain thresholds are met, and it has been determined that a disaster declaration from the president is not an option.
Florida has a lot of experience with emergencies and natural disasters, and we know preparation is essential for surviving and recovering from them. Take advantage of the resources at floridadisaster.org and urge your fellow elected officials to do the same. Also, when the State Emergency Operations Center in Tallahassee is activated for a disaster, there is a resource to our congressional delegation, legislators, and their staffs to get information on the state actions during a disaster. This resource is called the Intergovernmental Relations Team. Located in Tallahassee, this group will answer phone calls, return emails, and keep a web page updated with the latest information on it for the disaster. I hope you'll use this resource when needed. I want to thank you for your support of emergency management and urge you to learn as much as you can before a disaster strikes.